We're back for part 3 of our video series on HPTuners, and this is probably going to be the most important one in the series because this is going to tell you how to save your tune, mod it, compare it, and reload it. So we have VCM Editor open. We have to upload our tune, but you can see that the green upload arrow is grayed out. Previously we said that we have to close the file. You can come here to File and close it, or you can use the close folder icon. Once it's closed, it's going to highlight this upload arrow. We're going to hit the upload arrow, and it's going to give us some options. We can read the tune blindly. Whatever's on the network is going to read, or we can see what's on the network and then choose what we want to read. Plug your interface in to the vehicle and the computer. If you're using Bluetooth, make sure it's Bluetooth. Turn the ignition on, hit Gather Info. Now for this tutorial, I'm only going to have one module online to speed things up. And as you can see, this is a Gen 4 6.2 L94 engine. There is no TCM down here, and you're going to see that later in the video. We're going to read it. First thing it's going to do is go through its bootloader process. And the bootloader is very important because that really dictates whether or not the software is going to be able to read your computer or not. And in some of the Gen 5s, what will happen is when you hit read, it will go into a timer lockout, and it'll say internet up here. And on some of the Gen 5 controllers, they have to be unlocked online. So if you see that, it'll come up with an error saying cannot read the controller, check back in 15 minutes or something like that. And that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to make sure that you're online. You're going to let them decrypt your ECM. Then you're going to come back and read it. After that, you shouldn't have to do that again. It's only a one-time process. You will have to license it, of course, but that decryption to allow you to read it on the Gen 5s is important. And I'll try to go into that in a future video. Right now, I want to try to keep this as simple as possible for the majority of customers. So we're just going to wait until this reads. Once the tune reads, it's going to pop up this Save As window. Now you have an option to name it whatever you want down here. I'm going to just go ahead and save it stock ECM and TCM that I already saved earlier. Now we have saved the tune for this particular vehicle. So you have your tune uploaded. We're going to modify it, then rewrite it to the vehicle. Now I had to load a earlier 455 computer, that's a 2009, because we have a stream on the later model computers and it wouldn't require licensing. And I'm going to try to show you this licensing process because it can be a little bit tricky. So you have your tune opened up, you've saved it. Remember, you came up here and you saved it as, you named it. Now you want to write it. So you go here to the right arrow and you can see that it pops up and says that this vehicle is not licensed or this file is not licensed. And that's important in HPTuners because once you license a tune, that tune needs to be modified and reloaded into the vehicle if you don't want to buy another license. Meaning, if we send you or somebody else sends you another tune, you can't just load it into the vehicle because that vehicle was licensed. It has to be compared, update your original tune, saved as, and then load it into the vehicle. And I know that sounds kind of complicated, but we're going to go through it. When you try to load the vehicle and it says Show License Options, you're going to come here, and if you have credits, this specific box will light up. And it requires 2 GM credits to license this vehicle. The later model Gen 5s, at least starting in about 17, require 4 GM credits to license. So you can hit this Purchase Online, and it's going to go back to that same page that we showed in the earlier videos. You can then go ahead and log in and purchase your credits. But assuming you purchase the credits like we showed you, this specific box is going to light up. You're going to click on it, and it's then going to come back and say, this is a one-way deal. Are you sure that you want to license this tune? And if you say yes, then it's going to license the tune, and you're going to be able to modify it. So let's get out of this. We're going to open a tune-up that we know is already licensed. So here we have the stock tune that we read from the vehicle earlier. Now you can load that right back into the vehicle by hitting the down arrow. Now you'll notice that the TCM and the ECM is reporting here, and we're going to look at that. This is the operating system, and sometimes if there's an operating system conflict, HPTuners or EFI Live will not allow you to download that tune into that vehicle. So here's the T43, that's a 6-speed GM controller for the transmission. Here's the Gen 4, this is an E38, that's the Gen 4 controller for the engine. And all you have to do is hit write, and it will write the calibration for both the ECM and the TCM. Now let's say that you just want to write the engine and not the transmission. You can drop this box down and hit do not write. Now when you hit write, it's only going to write the engine calibration. Let's say you want to do a full write on the engine. You can hit write entire. That's going to basically write the entire operating system and the calibration. And the difference is about 4 to 5 minutes versus about 30 to 40 seconds. You only have to do a write entire if you're trying to change an operating system, or if you do something that is embedded in the core operating system like VATS. Now you also have the option to come down here and hit do not write the ECM. One nice thing about HPTuners on the Gen 4s is you can do a write entire on the transmission. And that means if you get a transmission out of a vehicle that wasn't from your engine, in a lot of cases, this will salvage it. You can do an entire operating system write, and you don't have to go to the dealer or use technical information or TDS to write your transmission. So that's the writing process. You basically make sure that your vehicle is licensed, your tool is registered. Now let's just say that those credits didn't show up and you know you have them. Come back up here and either re-enter the new application key after you purchase the credits online as showed in the earlier video, or if you have a V2 interface, make sure that your serial number and verification codes show up. Then resync it. Resync your interface, and those credits should pop up and allow you to license it. So now here's the most important part of the entire series, and that is how do I mod a file? So let's just say that you saved and licensed the stock ECM and TCM tune. Now I always like to put a date on my files so I know how old they are, and then chronologically I can track the changes in the modifications. And I suggest you do the same. So we know that this is a stock tune. Now let's just say Motec had sent you this modded ECM and TCM tune. Let's say we changed your vehicle speed, or we added a couple of degrees of timing, or whatever we did. Now you can't just open this tune and then download it into the vehicle because the licensing will not allow it. You have to keep this tune open. And you can tell by looking on the top here, if there were a compare file open, it would show over here, but it's not. So we have our stock tune open, and we have to download this tune back into the vehicle. We cannot just randomly pick another tune and download it. HPTuners won't allow us to do that. Sometimes EFI Live will, and we'll go over that when we get to the EFI Live tuning tool. So what we want to do is come in here. We do not want to modify the stock tune. We want to save this stock tune, keep it pure, so if we ever screw something up, we can go back and load it. And we want to hit File, Save As. We're going to name it New Tune, and the date, which today happens to be 11/29/19. And I actually use the year because I've been doing these tunes for over a decade, and sometimes the year can be important. So we're going to save it as that. So now up here you can see we have a new tune. If we open up that folder, you can see that our stock tune is safe. It's not going to be modified. We have the new tune open, and here's the tune we're going to use for compare. This is the tune that Motec will have sent you, or a tuner. So let's go back to the editor with our new tune, and you can see up here it says new tune and the date. And we want to modify this tune and then put it back in the vehicle. So how are we going to do that? Well, first we have to know what the differences are. Now we did talk about if we go into these tabs and we look at a lot of the engine data and engine diagnostics and all that, we can make changes by ourselves. But let's just assume that you're not going to do that. You just want a canned tune that you can install onto your vehicle and go. Well, what you're going to do is compare your tune, and you're going to hit the compare file, open a compare file, and we're going to pick this modded tune out. Now you can also go to the open compare file rather than using the compare button. They're redundant. But now we have a compare tune open, and here it is right here. See? Here's our new tune that we saved, and then here's the new tune. that I sent, or Motec sent you. And this is the compare tune. So if you were to download right now using this arrow, it would not download this compare tune. It would still download this tune. So what we have to do is modify this tune. So let's go into an engine parameter. Let's just take airflow for example. And if there is a difference between the original tune and the compare tune, it's going to show up with a different color. So let's find something that's different. So here you can see our airflow versus frequency is different between the compare tune and our original tune because it's highlighted in green. Now if we wanted to see the difference between those, we can open it up. This is basically your MAF calibration. This is airflow versus hertz, and this is a very important table. And it can vary from vehicle to vehicle based on the intake manifold and the MAF sensor and other things that you have in your vehicle. So what we're showing right now is the stock tune, and you can tell because it says right here show main file. We can look at the alternative tune and we can look at the differences between the two tunes. So you can see the MAF calibration in this vehicle is significantly different. Now you don't have to use these icons up here because they give them to you down here, and that's very handy. So right now this is showing the differences between the main tune and the compare tune, and you can use these tools here to change it. Let's just say you wanted to change these three parameters and you wanted to pick them up from the compare tune. So what you can do is highlight them. Now you can right click as is traditional with Windows and hit copy, and copy with axis means it's going to copy these axes and lock them to the parameter or to the value in that specific cell. But in general, because these are the same operating systems, you don't have to do that. So you can copy here, or they give you the copy tool right here. So I'm going to copy by hitting that. Then I'm going to come back here to the original tune, and I can then hit paste, and it's going to change those values. Now if you want to change the whole table over, click on this box, come over to your compare file, then copy it, go back to your original file, and hit paste, and it's going to change the whole table. Now when we go back to the main table, you can see that this is still in red because they're different. But if I were to save this now as the new tune, which we'll go ahead and do, you're going to see that that box is going to then go blue like everything else because now there is no differences. If we were to open that table up and we were to, you can see that everything's 0 under the differences. And if I go to the main file and I go to the backup file or the compare file, you can see they're exactly the same. So we have now updated that parameter. Now if you have hundreds of differences between the tune that you were sent and the tune that you have, that's going to be very time consuming to one by one go through here and look for what's green and then open that up and copy everything over. So here's an easier way to do it, and this is the important part of this video. You're going to go to compare. You can show differences, but what you want to do is view the comparison log. Now this log, as you can see, has tons of differences, and we're going to break this down into two basic categories: engine and transmission. There's a ton of differences here. Now remember, our goal here is to reload this tune into your vehicle without having you to pay for another license. We're going to compare. Then if you want to look at a specific value, let's just pick something out here. Let's say intake cam position for this specific MAF or barometric value. And you can, you know, they're different because they're in the difference log. So we can look at the original values and we can look at the new tunes values, and then of course we can look at the differences as shown before. And anything that's white 0 means there's no difference at all. So we want to update all this stuff at the same time. Now even though the operating systems are very similar, sometimes there's differences. If we try to copy everything over from this tune into the other tune, especially diagnostics, everything might not go over. But here's where you can start. Let's just say that you want to change your airflow. You don't want to really change anything else in your tune. And I sent you a tune and I said, hey, I know the airflow in this new tune is improved over what you have. Well, you can specifically choose a value. Let's say these area rate limits. Right click copy over selected difference. And what that's going to do is it only copied over to the new tune what you selected, that specific parameter. You don't want to really go through and do that with all these other values. So what you're going to do is you can go anywhere you want. You can limit this to engine. You can limit this to transmission. You can basically pick and choose any one you want. System, this is very important. In the earlier days, HPTuners did not support the alternator voltage control in the Gen 5s. And the Gen 5s had really wacky alternator control. But later on down the road, they did. They actually started to support this. So we want to copy that over too. So you can copy over just this parameter, or let's just right click on general, and notice it says copy over all differences. Now be careful, when you hit this, it's going to copy everything over that it can, engine and transmission. Here we go. Now look at that, almost everything disappeared. Now, like I said, in the engine diagnostics, sometimes there's going to be some little niggling things that just won't copy over. So hit each one of these and hit copy over selected difference, and you can see everything disappears. Now this comparison log is clear, which means there's no difference between the tune that you saved and the tune that we supplied you with or you got from wherever you got. So we can now save this as the new tune and we're safe. Now we still have an opportunity to come in here and look at the differences. Anything in red is something that we changed. So you can go here to a parameter like IAT, and now this tune, the main tune, has been updated to the compare tune. When you click on these, they're going to be exactly the same and the differences are going to be 0. But let's say you want to click this back to where it was. You could then go back in, compare this file to the original stock file, and I'm not going to open it right now, but you could open this compare file and then restore it back to where it was. Because once you hit this save button, and this is the save icon, if you hit file, that's the same as the save icon, and then save as saves it as a new tune. Once you hit that, this tune has now been locked into these values and you can't hit the back arrow. If I were to change something here, let's say I took this box here allows you to change multiple parameters at the same time. So I can times these values highlighted in blue by 2. It would make no difference multiplying by 0, but the -1 obviously it would. I can add 2 to these cells, or I can make these cells equal to. So let's just hit equal, and you're going to see they're all going to kick over to 2. Now this tune is different than the compare tune. And you can see if I go to compare, it's showing the 0s and the 1, -1, and we're showing 2s. So if we go here to the show differences, it's obviously going to show those as being different. So there's a lot of versatility here, but I don't want you messing with any of that. And we go to view comparison log, you'll notice that that didn't show up. And the reason it's not showing up is because we never hit save. So now let's just say I don't want these values. You can notice that I can come back here and kick them back to what they were. So we're going to go back, let's close all of our files, and we're going to save this tune as the new tune. Now we could save it as another tune, but we've already created this new tune, so we're going to save it. Now once this is saved, we can actually go back and compare it to our stock tune. So let's open a compare file. Let's go back to our stock tune, open, let's go to compare, view comparison log, and you notice all those differences pop back up. So it tells us that this tune has been modified. Now that this tune has been modified and we have instructed you, this is the tune we want you to load into your vehicle, you have taken the stock tune, you have created a new tune, and we're going to load that in the vehicle. So you're going to hit the right calibration. If you are instructed to do a right entire, go ahead and do a right entire. On a lot of the Gen 5 controllers, you can't do a right entire yet. Most of the tuners don't support that. Especially with the T43 and HPTuners, it is very versatile. We have taken Gen 5 6 LED transmissions and done right entires and had the operating system switch over and work with the Gen 4 engine. So HPTuners is very powerful when it comes to that. So at this point, you're going to hit right. Now, this vehicle says unlicensed because it's not licensed, but were it licensed, it would start writing the ECM, then it would say completed up here, then it would start writing the TCM and it would say completed up here. Now keep an eye on it, especially with the Chryslers, because a lot of times after it does a module, it'll tell you to turn the key off, wait 10 seconds, and then turn the key on, and then it'll wait 15 seconds and do the next module. They do that in the Gen 5s. So don't just walk away from your computer. You got to monitor it. It's going to give you instructions based on the operating system of what you have to do. That has now put the new tune into your vehicle. Now if we come up here to edit and we look at calibration details, it's going to give us a lot of information, and I believe you can use this icon here to get to the same screen. This is going to tell us a lot of stuff. First, tune overview. Here's the VIN number. This is the vehicle that this tune is out of. Controllers. We have an E38 GM Gen 4 controller, V8. Here's the VIN number. Here's the serial number of the ECM. Now this is important because a lot of guys think, oh, if I have the same VIN number in 3 different ECMs, I can program them all. And that's not true. And that's because each ECM has its own serial number. And EFI Live and HPTuners and everybody else locks to this serial number, because if they didn't, they'd be giving tunes out for free. This is the operating system. If you were to, let's say, go to California and want to have your vehicle inspected, California does online testing, and they use calibration verification numbers, as you can see here, and operating system. The operating system is going to be like Windows 10, and then the Cal ID is going to be these specific values. Now you can see that there's Cal IDs for the main operating system, for diagnostics, for speedometer, and each one has a CVN associated to it. Now if you were to come and change something in the main operating system, or more importantly in diagnostics, like turn codes off or turn monitors off, this CVN is going to change. And if that CVN doesn't match what the manufacturer has published online for that specific vehicle, that is this vehicle with this VIN number, then states like California and Colorado will kick you out. And that's something that we're dealing right now with the ARB, and Motec has actually had custom CVNs assigned to it for 50 state compliance, and we'll talk about that later. Now I'm going to touch on this again real quick, and I know I did this in a previous video, but let's say you have a problem, especially with the Gen 5, or let's say it's a 2015 or newer Jeep computer, because Chrysler started encrypting the computers, and a lot of times it'll just go into a controller lockout and it won't let you read it or tune it. Come up here to the information button, turn the key on, attach to the vehicle, then hit this icon. It's going to gather all this information. You're going to save it in a file on your desktop. You're going to email that to HPTuners. With that information, HPTuners is going to look at it and tell you what's wrong. Maybe you have to send the ECM and have it unencrypted. Maybe you're running an old version of the software, but that button can be important. So I think that we've covered most of the editor's functions at this point. And the key here is, when you save a tune, this is your master tune now. This is the tune that you need to do compares against, and then create new tunes. Because if you keep loading this tune into your vehicle over and over, there is no cost. If you were to take this modded tune and try to load it into your vehicle, they're going to have you relicense the vehicle again, and you don't want to do that every time because that'll get expensive. So we're going to go into the scanner on part 4. Here's just a little preview of the scanner. Now if I were to hit this red arrow, right now the scanner is blank. These are all the predefined parameters that HPTuners puts into the scanner. I haven't changed anything here, and this is all configurable. You can delete this stuff, make stuff bigger, you can rename these, you can set the red lines, you can do enunciators which report. This is the PIDs that you're working with. We can minimize that. But once I hit this red arrow, what it's going to do is talk to the computer. And now you can see our live data. And we can see the live data over here too. And we can stop communication. We can then add parameters or take parameters off. If we were to open up engine, let's say we were concerned about airflow, we can open airflow up and we can go to our mass airflow. Remember we were talking about the long-term fuel trims. This becomes very important at that point. So all these parameters can be added over here, or they can be taken away. You can move these up and down based on priority. So we'll talk about that later. There's just so much stuff here. I don't want to overwhelm you guys. And we're not just talking about HPTuners now. We're going to be going into EFI Live, Delco Service Programming System. We're going to be talking about Chrysler YTech. We're going to end right here, but I think we're done with the editor. If you have any questions about the editor, just go ahead and post below. We have given you the basic tools to upload and save your tune out of the vehicle, to compare to it, mod it, save it, then download it. That's 90% of what you have to do. If you want to get off into custom tuning and start adding spark timing or performance enrichment, that's obviously going to be an option that you have open to you. But I highly recommend that you work with a professional tuner or somebody knows what they're doing, because I can't tell you how many times we've had issues where somebody starts goofing around with their tune and screws things up, and they did not save their stock file to go back to, so we have to send them a stock file so they can start over again. This is a pretty safe way of you tuning. Basically, you're going to get pre-canned tunes from us or a professional tuner. You're going to do that compare, you're going to download it into your vehicle, and you're ready to go. So part 4 will be coming up soon. Thank you.